sure I remembered to. Hello, world. Are we on the internet? Internet, I am on you. Let me see. Yes, excellent connection. Always feels good. It's like almost like a compliment, you know? Like you're connected and it's excellent. Just putting out a tweet and a quick message to our channel. I lost the link. Okay. All set. Let's see. JS Party intro. Go. Hello, friends. Jerod Santo here, your internet friend, and I am excited to have a fun segments show for you today. Joining me are JS Party regulars, Allie. What's up, Allie?
Hey.
And Nick. What's up, Nick?
Hoi hoi. Glad to be here.
Glad to have the both of you. Today we are playing Story of the Week. We are playing Today I Learned. And I'm excited about X, where X is literally anything. Should we hop right into it?
Definitely.
Here we go.
It's time to take a peek. It's time for the story of the week.
Just when you think that jingle's over, there's a little coup de grace. Story of the week. This is where we share various news stories, discuss them, and then rank them by best to worst. Or I just made that last part up. We just move on after we're done. We don't do the ranking part. Nonetheless, we shall judge your submissions, even if I may have collected the most of these and just handed them out to people to talk about. So, Nick, what did I hand you to talk about today?
Well, Jerod, there's this Dino project, and it raised $21 million in funding. So congratulations to them. Let's discuss.
Congrats to Dino. So we've talked about Dino previously. We've had shows with Dino folks. Go back in the feed. Ryan Dahl on the Changelog podcast. And I can't remember.
Kits and Kelly.
Yes, Kits and Kelly on the JS Party podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We've also used Dino a little bit. I've used it a little bit. Have either of you tried Dino out?
Yes, a little bit.
Allie?
I have not, but I did see a conference talk about it at RemixConf, and it was really interesting, especially it was on Dino Deploy, and the speed at which you can deploy stuff on there is like unreal. It's like basically instant to get something relatively small deployed, which is wild, wild.
That is wild, and as part, I think that is part of their commercial offering or their planned commercial offering, is the deploy service, but then also other things. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Is the deploy stuff part of their commercial offering, Allie?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is Dino Deploy part of what they're planning on charging it for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That to me seems like their big business model from all that I can tell is that they have this serverless function deployment platform, and that seems to be their big business model. But it seems like people are already using it too. Like, I think Netlify is using them for their serverless functions.
Netlify also listed on the group of people who invested in this round of funding. So 21 million from Sequoia Capital, Nat Friedman, former CEO of GitHub on the list, Netlify on the list, Automatic, creators and purveyors of WordPress.com, amongst other things, Tumblr owners. What else?
Are they really?
Casts.
That's
Yeah,
so funny.
Automatic owns tons of stuff.
Wait, they own Pocket Casts?
They own Pocket Casts, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a conglomerate now. Weird times.
That's so funny.
So, Allie, one thing you were saying before we started was that Dino kind of had the initial hype cycle and a lot of interest because, of course, the pedigree, the fact that Ryan Dahl had these regrets about what he did with Node to begin with, and now it was like his chance for the big rewrite, rearrange the letters, change things up, have it be similar but different in many crucial ways. And that, of course, generated a lot of interest and a lot of early use and people checking it out. And it's seemed like for a little while things got quiet or people kind of quit, kind of went back to just, well, it was nice. I mean, I checked it out, but, Node and Dino, at a surface level, I'm not building big, complex applications. There's not too much different between the two. But here they are. They're still raising money. They're still doing stuff. So what do we think? Are people going to start to use this in real life soon, or are they? Thoughts?
It seems like the serverless thing is a compelling use case for it, and it's just really fast. And I'm excited about that. I think that that's where they can, stay afloat with things. I'm also really excited about specifically the way that you can compile Dino into like executables that you don't need a runtime for, kind of like Go in that way. So it's like a JavaScript solution to a runtimeless binary that you can ship. So you can write your command line scripts in it without having to here's the script, go npm install my 10 million dependencies and then run it.
Right. So you just install all the dependencies first and then
Yeah.
ship those to them as one big blob.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it says a lot that the Twitter hype cycle doesn't really mirror everything, right? It's
Right.
Yeah.
people aren't tweeting about it 24/7, so it falls out of your the front of your brain, I guess. But
Right.
then they're still doing stuff. They're still building a tool that's clearly going to help in some facet of the industry, and maybe it's not going to be overnight that everybody's moving from their Node Express apps to Dino, but it seems like for building really complex things that need to be really performant, like deployment pipelines, maybe Dino's a really great option.
Noteworthy that Dino did just receive one of its first big full stack frameworks in the open source world, Fresh, a next gen web framework for Dino. So some of the stuff that Node has, of course, because of the years and years of community building things, is just like all these tools that you can just get going with. Anytime you start brand new, fresh, you have to I didn't mean to call it Fresh again, but it's called Fresh. Anytime you start fresh, you need some fresh tooling. And so people are starting to build things and get inspired by Dino and do frameworks, etc. So that's a starting place. What was interesting to me is in this tech scene, which you all talked about recently with K-Ball, the downturn, right? All of a sudden money is expensive and scarce. And here comes $21 million thrown at Dino. And so that's kind of impressive. They convinced people to invest in them now. My guess is, what I've learned a lot with these startups and announcing rounds, is that a lot of that, maybe all of it, I'm not sure, this is just conjecture, was probably locked up and already invested. And they actually, a lot of times these rounds are closed for a while, but the companies just wait for a strategic moment to make their announcement. And so quite possibly this money was all dedicated prior to the downturn. Maybe not, but likely.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance, I would say, that normally these announcements come after they get all the legal approvals and all that, and it was already on paper quite a few months ago. At least that's been my experience working at different startups, is that you hear about these things way after they happen internally.
Which is great timing for the team, and hopefully gives them a good runway to continue to build new stuff, because they are consistently putting stuff out, and so this will probably carry them through. All right, there you have it, Dino, raising money, building cool stuff, and time will tell. Are you using Dino? Are you checking it out? Holler at us, JS Party FM on Twitter, or reply in the comments. We'd love to hear from people who are actually using it. Maybe in replace, maybe they've left Node and now they just like reach for Dino every time. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Allie, what you got? Story of the week.
GitHub CoPilot is no longer just a free beta type product. They introduced a pricing model, so it's a real thing now. It's going to be $10 a month or $100 per year, and they do have free tiers for big open source projects and for students. And I think this is interesting in making waves on the internet because it's basically a model that's trained on the code that's hosted on GitHub. So all the code that's kind of uploaded by not GitHub themselves, but all these different contributors. And then they're charging it for it. So I think in general, I'm a very big proponent of like charging for developer tools because I think that people get locked into this like free open source model, and then it becomes that open source is just something that people do on nights and weekends. But there are actually a lot of companies doing this. But then on the other hand, there's this kind of ethical, weird gray area of it's basically just a model trained on everybody else's code, and they're charging for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you probably win this time because I think this has been the story. As we record June 23rd, this has been the biggest story of this week with everybody commenting and sounding off their thoughts, whether or not they think it's worth the money, whether or not they think it's ethical of what GitHub/Microsoft have done here, and etc. Nick, where do you stand?
Yeah, it is also kind of an interesting place because this is a tool that is, it's not really behind the scenes at all for a developer, right? It's right there in your face all the time, suggesting things to you once you get it set up. And so, they've been pretty much auto approving everyone who wants to join the beta. And I think that it's free until August sometime as well. So you kind of, it's the classic like drug bundle. You get a free taste, and it's right there.
The first one's free.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's still a 60-day free trial even after they start billing for it.
And free for students, I think.
Pretty long. Yeah, students in big open source projects are going to continue to be free for forever. Oh.
Dog attack.
But yeah, it's something that once you get used to it and you get used to the way that it suggests things to you, or like how to prompt it in certain ways. Like for me, it solves the blank canvas problem of just like, I need to do something. I don't really know how to do it. I'll start at Stack Overflow and maybe think about, how I do this. I can just write a comment, see if it gives me anything good, but it's something. It's not a blank canvas to go from. It's something.
So on the whole training on open source code, so go back in the feed. We have a whole episode. We asked a lawyer about GitHub CoPilot. So we have like the legal ramifications covered, and it's very fuzzy. In that regard, he doesn't actually think they're doing anything that's illegal. That was my summation of Luis's take on that. But definitely go listen to the detailed conversation.
Yeah.
In terms of just like, I mean, there's legal and then there's ethical, right? And these things overlap, but they're not one-to-one.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about whether or not it's ethical. So from my perspective, I think they should have limited it to permissive licenses. I think they opened up a can of worms by training against GPL licenses. That being said, I don't personally have a problem with let's train a model on all the open source code and create a cool tool around that. I feel like they're adding a lot of value. They're not simply reusing. And as an open source denizen, I just I can't get worked up about this. I know there's lots of people that are worked up. It just doesn't really bug me that much.
I kind of agree too, especially since so many GitHub projects are on the free tier that people are not paying for GitHub to host their code in the first place. So I think that's another argument as well. Like I've worked at companies that have had like GitHub Enterprise or, a professional GitHub instance or whatever. And I think that that's something that a lot of companies are doing, but a lot of these like projects that it's training off of might not fall under that too.
Right. And something I learned from Natalie Pistanovich on GoTime is that because it's OpenAI's model and GitHub is creating the tooling using OpenAI CodeX, a bunch of other companies can build their own copilots and are building them using the same data, the same models. And so that is not going to be like a GitHub / Microsoft competitive advantage. That's like everybody can have that, build from there, and then compete on integration, compete on the way it works, etc. And so we should be seeing maybe compete on price, right? Come out with free / cheaper. And so I think that's going to be good for all of us, is to have
Yeah.
that competition.
It's
Yeah.
probably not that hard to build either, to be honest.
I could do it in a weekend.
I feel like you're teeing up my next one there, Jared.
All right, go.
Along those lines, AWS has announced now in preview Amazon Code Whisperer, an ML-powered coding companion,
Oh,
as of today. So,
that's just fresh today. I haven't heard of this.
yeah.
So, disclaimer, Ali works for AWS, so put that out there. Opinions all your own, I assume.
Yeah, and I'm also like very removed. This is the first time I'm hearing about it too.
You just found out about it on the show. You didn't get the memo. Okay, so Nick, is this using OpenAI Codex as well?
I don't know. I didn't see that as I was scanning.
Okay.
it.
You're scamming? Why are you out there scamming people, Nick?
As I was scanning it, I scanned quickly to see if it would support my workflow, which it does not, because unlike CoPilot, it does not support Vim or NeoVim, so I won't be trying it anytime soon. But it does, the prompts and the way that it responds does look very similar.
So quite possible. We will try to follow up. Maybe if somebody knows the facts on that, let us know for a follow-up. One thought I had about for the people who are super mad that all of this stuff is trained against open source, publicly available code, is couldn't you react to that by creating some sort of a subterfuge campaign where you just upload thousands and millions of really bad programs to GitHub, and maybe even write a bot that would just write bad code, or hire me.
Pretty sure
I
that's
can crank
happening.
it out, and then just upload all that and be like, take that CodeX, train on this, and then you're just tanking the tool, aren't you? I mean, couldn't you do that?
I'm pretty sure that they don't need a bot for that. There's plenty of bad code out there.
Yeah, it would be a pretty funny one though. Like
That would
bad
be
code.
awesome.
Bad.
I prompted. I was writing a shell script just the other day, just 2 days ago, and in the shell script I wrote a comment like, now I'm going to clean up the home directory with like all of the the extra files added in there, and it suggested a function that was literally rm-rf $home. So there's lots of bad
So you
code
ran
there.
that, and then
Yeah.
then what happened?
I started seeing The Matrix. It was amazing.
That reminds me of that episode of The Office where Michael and Dwight are driving directly into that lake. Have you guys watched The Office? And the AI assistant, right? The car GPS was telling him to go straight, and Dwight's in the passenger seat yelling like, "Stop, stop!" And Michael just he just drives directly into a lake because the turn-by-turn directions just told him to. So kudos to you for not actually running that thing against your home directory. All right, moving on. We have our third story. This one I thought was kind of cool. The Brave search engine, the Brave browser now has a search engine. That's not news. They've had it for a little while. It's been kind of experimental, trying to compete with Google, DuckDuckGo, and friends. And I used it for a little while. It's kind of like ho-hum. It's there. It's like, I think maybe the default in Brave now, but you can switch to the other ones. Until I learned of Brave Search Goggles, which is a brand new offering, an open source deal, where you can actually modify and filter, apply some sort of goggles, so to speak, to all your Brave searches. And not only can you create these filters, but then you can package them up, share them with the community, and then have like single click buttons where you search Brave search function with these filters on. And so the examples that they have on the homepage is you can create a Brave search where it's called No Pinterest. So you can basically re-rank the results to remove all pages or threads hosted on Pinterest. That's just one example. You could have a search that's focused around left-leaning sources. If you want to just continue an echo chamber, you could also do that on the right side. And you can only have right-leaning sources by ranking results to boost content from one of these news sources. There's another one that focuses in on tech blogs. There's one called 1K Short, where instead of showing like the 1,000 biggest sites that it hits, it shows you the 1,000 smallest sites. And so all these different ways that you can tweak and change the results and then save those off as almost like bookmarks to kind of invent your own little search engine each time, which I thought was kind of interesting. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. I have solved this in many ways, not like by tweaking what it returns, but just by hiding what gets returned in other search engines.
Oh, okay.
With like extensions and such. You know, I don't want to name any websites, I guess, that start with W or 3 or a combination of that.
You're pretty close now. Do you want to just close the loop on that?
W3 schools
Thank you.
or Experts Exchange.
Experts
was one.
Exchange. Experts Exchange. That's literally how it's spelled. I mean, talk about a domain hack. It's like hacking yourself. All right, so that's Brave Search Goggles. Check it out. We will link to the GitHub page that explains how it works, how you can create your own syntax, how you can share the goggles with the world. It's kind of cool. It's just like a custom URL that you pass in front of the actual search query into the URL. So these things are very like web friendly the way they built this, which I think is kind of neat. You know, nobody's really been able to chip away at the dominant search engine, even though the results are like demonstrably worse. And I've used DuckDuckGo for years. It's just kind of been like, it's there, it's just not Google, so I appreciate it, but it's not like it wows me with its results. And I end up having to do the #G quite a bit to get to a Google result because I just know it's going to be the first hit, and then it is. So there hasn't been much innovation. Like that was privacy focused. This one's also privacy focused. It feels like that's becoming a thing that's going to be needed to go up against Google search. But it seems like this, like hyper customization, hackery, providing like a completely different experience than what Google's providing might be a way that we can get better searches in our lives. So thought it was cool. Okay. Should we do one more? Let's do one more. Allie, close us out here. Oh, I think you're muted still. Still. No? No worries. This will all get edited right out. Nope. You want me to unmute you? I might be able to do it. Nope. It's set. Oh, yeah. Leave and come back. That works. Experts Exchange. I'm 40 years old and I still laugh whenever I hear that.
I had to like make sure that I didn't say that because that's how it reads.
It is exactly
Okay.
how it reads.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back. There's like a second. Do you have a second one, Nick? There's like another one that's not coming in. It might just be my UI. There's 4 squares and one's not loading, but
Oh,
2 say
weird.
Allie. That's all right. We can hear you. Say a few words.
Hey. I am
Yeah, so-
not feeling good at all of a sudden, which is why I tried to
Ah,
move, but I can try to power through.
well, try to power through, and if you can't, we'll just do this. We'll be on a break, and if you have to hop off or something,
Okay, cool.
All right. So I'll tee you back up again. I'll say let's do one more. Allie, take it
Okay.
away, and then you start with your Adam story. Okay, should we do one more? Let's do one more. Allie, close us out.
Yeah, so one fun one, or I guess it's more nostalgic than anything, is that the Atom text editor is shutting down. I haven't used it in years and years since like VS Code took over, but I used to use it as my primary text editor for years, and so it's a little bit bittersweet. Makes me feel old that my first text editor, or definitely wasn't my first text editor either, but an old
Right.
one is shutting down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was kind of one of those things where it's like, obviously, eventually going to happen, but well, the day it did, we all were kind of like, oh no.
Yeah, as soon as Microsoft acquired GitHub, it seemed inevitable that they weren't going to keep developing VS Code and Atom at the same time. But Atom did lead the way for VS Code and for Atom Shell, right, which became Electron, and Tree Sitter is another thing that came out of Atom, which is like a syntax tree for source code for like a single file, and that's now built into NeoVim, and so like the fruits of that labor have expanded beyond just that editor, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah,
was a
super
great project.
innovative, leading the way, especially in like browser or web tech based native tools, and the fact that it gained a lot of interest. It was used by many people. I used it for a little while. It was never quite as fast as Sublime Text, just like VS Code isn't either. So it never stuck, but super appreciated all the work there. And I agree with you, Nick. As soon as we knew that Microsoft owned GitHub and VS Code was like so dominant in terms of developer interest, it just really didn't make sense to continue both.
Yeah, but it does look like the team behind Atom have started a new editor written around Rust, and it's called Zed.
Yes, Zed's not dead, despite what Pulp Fiction might tell you. So it's also not ready for prime time yet. So I think we had Nathan Sobo on the changelog years ago talking about Atom, and he's agreed to come back on to talk about Zed when he's ready. And he says Zed's not quite ready yet. So that'll happen, but always interested for people who are innovating in the editor space, because even if you don't use it, like that innovation ends up pushing other people to change, adapt, improve their editors. So will be interesting to watch.
I'm gonna have to sign off. I'm about to.
Yep.
I'm really sick.
All right.
Sorry.
We'll call this break right there. All good.
Bye.
Hope
Bye.
you feel better.
Yeah, she did not look very good.
Yeah.
Make sure she's gone. Okay. So we shall continue. Let me get my TIL out. Okay. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
All right, we are back, and Allie had to hop off during the break because she wasn't feeling well. So feel better, Allie. I hope you're not too sick, and if you can shoot Allie some kind words, she's aspittle on Twitter. See how she's doing. Nick and I are going to power through, and we're going to share things that we've learned.
I got a story that I'm going to tell. You're gonna love it, baby, think it's swell. I only learned it today. TIL.
to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So today I learned, technically yesterday, by way of Simon Willison, who actually shared this on his TIL subdomain of his blog where he shares things he's learned. This is really cool. It's a one-liner for running queries against CSV files with SQLite. So I'm not going to share the entire one-liner, but basically as long as you pass to SQLite 3, the command line tool, this argument for the mode to be CSV, and then take a CSV file and import it, you can then pass that in without any sort of modifications. Just pass the CSV file in and then just run an in-memory version of SQLite that will just run, store it in memory until a command executes and then disappear immediately, and run arbitrary SQL queries against it, just like it was a database. And so it goes and makes all the tables in memory and stuff, and I don't know, it's fancy. And then it just all disappears when you're done, and it just gives you your result of running that query. So Simon found that out. It's super cool. I'll share the actual link in the show notes so you can see the one-liner itself. But it's one of these things where I was like, dang, I wish I knew that before. I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One thing I do often for, is it JS Danger? No, it's for front-end Feud, is we get all of the responses in via Typeform. And then Typeform allows you to export to CSV or .xlsx or whatever. So actually I think it is a CSV. And then I'll open that up with numbers and I will clean it up and normalize, because we're trying to aggregate. In the case of a survey like that for front-end Feud, you're trying to aggregate the top answers. But it's always a text field. It has to be. Like if we say, where do you go to code when you're not at home? We can't provide drop downs, It has to be free text. And so we get back ridiculous differences, So there's like this normalization step where it's like maybe you said I go to the beach and then somebody else just wrote beach. It's like, well, those are both beach, but one of them said I go to the beach and the other one said beach, right? So there's like this data cleansing process that I go through and just kind of like manually massage things into the right order. And then I want to query it. Well, now it's a stinking numbers file, right? So I export that to CSV, and now I have everything clean in a CSV file, but I want to query it with SQLite. And so then I take the CSV and I convert it to a SQLite database, and then I open it in the SQLite command, and then I run my queries. And then I do this over and over for each column, because each column is a question. And so it's just too many steps. And TIL, I don't have to do all those steps. I can just take that CSV, I can run this one-liner and put my queries in there and just get immediately spit out the answers without having to go through conversion, enter a program, run a query, exit the program, conversion. So I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, that looks really cool. I love tools like this that just make it easier to work with data in different ways.
100%. And SQLite is so versatile and so old. I mean, it's been worked on for so many years that there's like all these little hidden features in it that you would never know because they're like hidden behind this command line flag,
Yeah.
That's neat. So very thankful for Simon Willison for exposing that to the world and teaching all of us so that we can do things a little more productively and share that with you all as well. Hopefully it'll help you. So that's mine. What about you?
Mine, excuse me. Mine is kind of along the same lines. Tell me, Jerod, have you ever used a command line utility called FZF?
Fuzzy file finder or something? Fuzzy find. Yes.
Fuzzy find.
I have. Yes.
Yeah, I integrate that into like everything. So like I can hit anywhere to get like command, like as I'm typing, if I want to autocomplete like a path to a file, I just hit Control T, and then I just start typing the file name, and it'll fuzzy find a list down to exactly what I want. And then just once I hit enter, paste the path to that file in right there. Or I can hit Control R to search through my history, fuzzy find through my history. And
So you've replaced it like where grep would be, or it's not even grep because grep goes into files. Does FZF search inside the files, or just in this context, or just the file names?
It doesn't do any of that, and it also kind of does all of that because it doesn't do it.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You can
it does
just take
nothing and everything.
Yeah. You can just take anything and pipe it to FZF and then fuzzy find through that. So you can take your grep results and fuzzy find through that.
So if you take a directory list or a list of directories and then FCF it, you're basically doing file name search or directory search. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. One thing
but
that
if
I
you take
constantly...
the contents of your file, like if you cat a .ts file and send that to FCF, now you're searching word for word or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I do that through, I use a tool called RipGrip to find things. It's like a Rust-based, ACK or Silver Searcher or, one of those variants, like a beyond grep, not better than grep. And you just
they're
pipe
trying
the
to be
results.
better than grep though, right? Otherwise they wouldn't.
Yeah,
that's the point.
I think X URL used to be better than grep.com or something like that, and now it's beyond grep, just to, because it
Be a
doesn't
little
need to have
nicer.
that rivalry,
Right.
Anyway, that just so cool. And my pick is not, or my TIL is not FZF because I've been using that for years. But I was teeing that up as a way to visualize what I'm about to show you. Have you ever heard of another tool called JQ?
JQ for searching in JSON.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a query language. So it kind of ties into what you were talking about a little bit, but it's for JSON files. And so you can type this, the syntax, and search through a JSON file and get out like a specific piece of that. You could modify the JSON file in different ways. But when I use that, I constantly have to have the reference open to figure out what I'm actually doing. There's also like online tools that let you like paste some JSON in one side and then write a query and it'll show you the results on the other side. Kind of like, a tool that you'd use for like doing regular expressions. And that's really cool, but like kind of marrying the two of those together is a tool that I just found the other day called JQQ. And it is a visual wrapper around JQ that kind of does the FZF type thing where as you're writing out your query, it's live showing you like a preview in like virtual text of exactly what would get returned by what you're querying as you go. So you can kind of use that as a nice tool to build out your JQ syntax or your JQ query and in real time get that feedback.
That sounds super useful because I've never found JQ syntax to be good for me. How do I say it?
I didn't want to say it.
Easy? Well, just for me. It's not like I'm not like blaming anybody. It just doesn't make sense in my head. I'm like, I'll just take the thing and I'll just cat my JSON and pipe it into grep and find what I'm looking for or something. Or open it up in Sublime Text, which handles JSON files quite easily, and do Command F inside of there, Like, because every time I have to use JQ, I have to feel like I'm learning the query language for the first time because I use it infrequently. I think if I use it daily, it would be less so. So it sounds like this is really great for discovering how that query language works more in a tactile way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's cool. JQQ. All right. In lieu of Allie's TIL, I have another idea, which is today I responded to Michael Rogers' tweet. So, Nick, I would like a live response from you, an admitted TypeScript fanboy, from a tweet by Michael Rogers, former JS Party panelist, maybe even future JS Party panelist, but hasn't been on in a while, when he today said, TypeScript is the new Java. If that makes you happy, it's because it's true. If that makes you angry, it's because it's true. So, first question is, does that make you happy or angry? Second question is, do you agree or disagree? Hot takes.
Put me on the spot like this.
TypeScript is the new Java. Your thoughts?
When I first started learning TypeScript or being forced to learn TypeScript, I thought the exact same thing. I was like, this is Java-ifying my code, and I don't like it because it's too verbose and I'm not being productive. And I was especially salty on it because like you spend a lot of time writing all of this type code that doesn't actually get run and it doesn't have any effect.
Right.
But that said, I don't know. I don't have a healthy relationship with Java, if I'm honest. So I don't like comparing those because I love
this
TypeScript.
makes you angry.
It does.
So the answer to my question is angry. He's angry
Yeah.
because you like TypeScript, but you don't have a healthy relationship with Java.
Yeah.
But-
My only Java experience is working on a Struts 1 application, which was not fun.
Yeah.
I quickly went over to the JavaScript side because I didn't want to. Like I just did not like it at all.
I use Java just enough to know that I never want to use this language again. And I quickly went to other things and stayed elsewhere and have managed to avoid it my entire career since that point. And so that's also my tactic with TypeScript. But do you think that, okay, so that's your hot take. It makes you a little angry, but you thought that yourself. So you think his comparison, you think him saying TypeScript is the new Java, you think it's inappropriate, or do you think that he's onto something there? Like, whether you like it or not, there's something to it?
I mean, I don't know. Like, you don't have all of the baggage of Java, right? I don't know.
Okay, so there's your
You
hot
just
take.
get
He
the
doesn't know.
benefits
He's
of-
angry. He doesn't know, but he's angry.
You get the benefits of like to write TypeScript. What do I have to know? I have to know how to use Node a lot. Like I have to know JavaScript. It's not going to save you from learning JavaScript.
Right.
You know what I don't have to know? I don't have to know Maven. I don't have to know Gradle. I don't have to know public static void main, args whatever, args string array. I don't have to know any of that. I just start writing a script, and if I want to add some types to it, I add some types, and it makes it better for me when I come back to it, for sure. But like all of those bad things aren't there, so I've come around. I also think that Java or TypeScript has gotten a lot better with its tooling. It was pretty rough in the 1.0 days for sure.
Can you tell me what you'd have to type in order in TypeScript to export a default function that has a certain return value or something? Like, what would that be?
It would be export default function, whatever, and then you can name it whatever or not name it, and then you could just implicitly like let it figure out the type of the return based on what you return. You don't necessarily have to give it a return type.
So export default function main and then some sort of.
You
Doesn't that
forgot the
sound a lot
async in
like
there.
public static void? Yeah.
But
All right.
that public static void main is inside of some class that you have to have, right? And because everything has to be a class in Java.
Truth. All right, you've acquitted yourself quite well. Take that, Michael Rogers. They're different, okay? Nick Neasy says so. All right, let's take a next break. We'll be right back.
It's funny that you brought that up because I just got a few minutes before that, I got a notification on my watch from Matt Steele tweeting that to the Nebraska TS account.
Oh, nice. He sent the tweet to the thing.
Yeah.
I also just saw it like minutes before we started recording and thought, I actually quote tweeted it and said, this doesn't make me happy or angry. I never use Java and I'm never going to use TypeScript, so don't care. That was my take. All right. Not I never used Java, but I don't use Java. Or I didn't use Java. I don't use TypeScript. Okay, let's do the final segment here. Things we're excited about. Boom. We do not have a theme song for this. I'll pitch to you first this time. You cool with that?
Okay.
All right, we're going to close up this conversation with a fun little segment where we just share things that excite us currently. So we call this I'm excited about X, where X is literally anything. Nick, what are you excited about these days?
Well, I just got back from Amsterdam and the JS Nation and React Summit podcast conferences where I
Right.
was there for JS Party. And one thing that was introduced there that was really cool is, and it's out on YouTube now, is the Svelt Origins documentary. And I think that it's a fantastic watch. These types of documentaries that are just like really high quality, interviewing people that we've had on this show. Swix is prominently interviewed in there. Amelia Wattenberger is also
Nice.
interviewed in there. So that's really cool. And it's just super well done and it gets you excited about these things. And I've never used Svelte, but I'm excited about Svelte and, I'm happy that it exists and I want to use it. But even though I've never used it before, I was fascinated by watching this half-hour documentary and I think you should check it out.
Yeah, is this by the Honeypot team or is this a different one?
So I don't know the story, but yes, it's OfferZen. And I think that it's like they're now doing those documentaries for OfferZen instead of Honeypot or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, have been very impressed by these documentaries. I know there was one about Elixir. I think there was one about, was it Node.js? I don't know, they've done a handful. Vue, I'm pretty sure Vue has one.
Yep.
Vue.js, the documentary. So they're practiced at this. And they're like, it's like a professional video team. These are like, this is like a documentary, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could throw it on Netflix for programmers, which is basically YouTube, I guess.
They go like all over the world for these, like to put this together. It's like, as far as YouTube videos go, it's a high budget YouTube video that is like, they went and interviewed Orta Thorox, formerly of the TypeScript team. And, they interviewed him in his office at home and you could see, how he works. You could see how other folks in their offices work. And it's just a really high quality documentary.
And they take a long time to produce as well. I know when we had Rich Harris on the show last, which I'm frantically searching to find out when it was, back in December, episode 205, so much Svelty goodness. Amelia and Amel were on that episode. And when we were recording it, Amelia had already been interviewed for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I just know that it takes a long time for these to finally get put together, especially if you're traveling around the world getting these interviews. And I think Rich had already been interviewed for it back then as well. And that was like 6 months ago. So
Wow.
who knows how much effort, time, and thought have been put into these. A super cool thing. How fun would it be to have an open source project that's so beloved that somebody makes a documentary about it? That has to feel pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We should start one. What should we do?
Oh. I'm trying to think of something funny.
Okay, let's not start one. That was our big chance, Nick.
Yeah, I know.
Got nothing.
Kind of along these lines, though, I'll throw out like another YouTube channel that does similar things, but not like developer focused, although it is kind of very adjacent. Is Noclip? Have you ever watched any Noclip documentaries?
No, I don't know about this.
These are video game documentaries, and they are fantastic. They're like, I watched one about Doom, like it's just called Doom documentary, and there's a couple of parts to it.
Okay.
But they also have one that's like the story of CD Projekt Red, or a Half-Life documentary, and it's not just like them documenting themselves playing a game. Like for the Doom one, they went to id Software and they interviewed John Romero and talked about what went into it, and they talked to the composer of the music, and I think Mick Gordon is his name, and just talked about what went into that. And as I've been playing games, because I'm very late to the video game scene, I've been watching these Noclip documentaries for these games that have been out for years that I'm just now getting around to, and it's just a fun like supplemental to it. And I'm just fascinated by like the stories that go into how those games get made, how they get the voice actors that they want, or
Totally.
things like that. And so yeah, some of my favorites are the Doom one, the Hitman one, and there's a fun like paranormal game called Control that they have one on as well.
Definitely, we'll have to check that out. Link that up for us. We'll get into the show notes for folks. Noclip video game docs. Very cool. Well, I brought a couple of things that I'm excited about. One online, one offline. Let's start in meat space. I'm excited about Can Jam. Have you ever played this game?
Can Jam. Yes. Is that with a frisbee?
Yes, and the trash
yeah.
cans?
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
I have that in my garage right now. It's super fun.
Yeah, so I mean, it's summertime here in the States and people are starting to have barbecues and here comes 4th of July. So there'll be a lot of outdoor activities going on. And this Can Jam game couldn't be any simpler. It's effectively 2 trash cans. They're not actually trash cans. They're just like plastic. But
Yeah.
you could make it, with a couple of trash cans with a kind of a mailbox looking slot cut out of the side of each. And you set them anywhere from like 15 to 25 feet, depending on how good you are at Frisbee, apart from each other with the mailbox slots facing each other. And it's 2 teams. You stand on either side of the cans, and you have a Frisbee that you're just throwing, and you're trying to throw it either into the slot, which is an instant win, or into the top of the deal. Trash can. The can. Just forgot how to use words. Which is like 3 points or something. Or hit the outside. Anyway, there's a point system. On the other side, you're trying to work with your teammate to help direct it to the can. So like if the person misses with the Frisbee, because it's not very easy, you can like slap it at the can to get points as well. Just one of these games that are so simple that you think, why didn't I think of that? And yet so brilliant that you're like, I want to play this all day long. And so Can Jam, we'll link up the main website if you haven't heard of it. It's cheap. It's actually easy to travel with because the plastic cans just like unconnect and you can lay flat, and then you're basically just carrying a Frisbee with you. So it's really portable. Take it to the beach, take it camping, what have you. Can Jam, so fun, so exciting.
The sophisticated cornhole.
Yes. for people who would prefer to throw out trash cans.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the sophisticated folks. So Can Jam's my offline. I'm excited to play that here over the summer break. And then my online is lofi.co. Have you heard of this website, lofi.co?
I have not.
So if you are into lo-fi music while you're coding or while you're writing or while you're studying or whatever you're doing, there's always playlists on Spotify and there's YouTube channels that are just like 12 hours of lo-fi, right? Well, lofi.co is an in-browser experience where you can set up different circumstances. So it's like a cool coffee shop and it's all hand-drawn and kind of animated. Or it's like a street corner and you can play lo-fi music as well as like turn on rain and traffic and people typing. And just right there in a browser tab, craft your own environment for productive work. In the browser, you can also upgrade for like 20 more scenes and sign up and blah, blah, blah. I haven't done any of that. I just load up lofi.co, hit play, turn on the rain, and forget about it. So very exciting. I think potentially they can turn this into a money-making endeavor. Pretty cheap. It's like $3 a month or $100 for lifetime access. Get you like wallpapers, Pomodoro timer, a notepad, stuff that I don't really care about, but like cool add-ons to support their work. And it's just a really cool in-browser little web app that plays lo-fi music for you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I have never really coded to lo-fi music.
No? How about like rain sounds and lightning and stuff?
Yeah, occasionally. Although, yeah, I don't know. I'm very random with my music, and lately it seems like I'm never out of a meeting long enough for me to turn on anything like this.
That's kind of sad. I have a similar struggle where, I'm editing or producing podcasts so much that requires me to actually be playing those sounds,
Yeah.
So like I'm playing our music or I'm listening to conversations and I'm editing and stuff. And so that's like very workflow similar to coding in that you zone in and get into it, and you're like engrossed. Only it completely requires your ears to be the entire time. Whereas coding is kind of the opposite, right? You can disengage your ears if you want to. And so when I do have a coding sesh set up, I'm like, I'm ready for something because I miss my music. Like I don't get to listen to music as often anymore because I'm so often producing a podcast that when it comes time to actually code, I'm ready for something like this.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Like it seems worth checking out just for the wallpapers alone, even if you're not going to use that. You said that you can get these as wallpapers.
Yep. If you sign up,
Yeah.
you can download them as wallpapers. What's cool about it is it's completely ad free. It's unlimited music streaming. So it's not the kind of thing where they like really hold you hostage right away. I found another cool one a while back called maybe Brainfm or something.
Yeah,
And there's
I've
a
used
lot
that.
of studies that like this stuff actually does help you be productive and get in the zone. Like this kind of background noises and music like this.
Yeah.
And so Brainfm, I think, was like one that like gets you, but it was so much like always upselling you on buying the thing. And I like how this one's like, hey, just chill, listen to it. I mean, they're competing with, you can watch, there's YouTube channels that just this all day long. And it's completely free, you know, maybe with ads. And then Spotify also free, but with ads, and unless you've upgraded. This one's just like completely free, completely unlimited. Come hang out, listen to our tunes, and then like, hey, want some wallpapers?
You know, occasionally I listen to other podcasts. I know.
How dare you?
But one thing I did learn from one of them was like somebody, I can't remember exactly, like I'll try and find a link for the show notes, but on the podcast, she mentioned that she puts on like a 4-hour video from YouTube that is just a guy working at his desk. And it's just like if he were on a Zoom call. And
Wow.
she like, you know, they don't talk. He doesn't talk. She doesn't talk to him. But when he gets up to take a break, she like, you know, stretches or takes a
So
break.
she takes a break when he takes a break?
Yeah. It's just like the, you know,
they're
the working from
coworkers.
home, but feeling like you're actually there.
Gotcha.
Or maybe working alone, but with someone else, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What if you have to use the restroom and he's not ready to get up yet? I mean, you just kind of, you don't want to be rude. Hold it.
Yeah, that's the benefit. You can just pause them. I wish I
Pause
could
the
do that in
video,
real
yeah.
meetings.
So that's kind of it. That's kind of interesting. A little weird. I'm not going to lie. A little bit weird.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever floats your boat, whatever gets you productive, I guess.
That's the thing, though. I love that there's so many different ways to like,
Yeah.
you know, fight
Cope.
the procrastination or the, you know, the sense of feeling, I don't know, isolated or alone. There's different ways to do that, and there's different ways to help you with your focus, whether that's
Right.
Brainfm, whether that's lo-fi, whether that's you know, heavy metal video game music. I mentioned Doom before. I've been listening to the Doom 2016 soundtrack, which is like it's okay. Like there's a lot of cutscenes with like demons speaking, which is not super great, but
That might ruin your flow.
yeah.
I can't go really high BPM when I'm thinking because it's just like it tends to get me agitated or too excited. I think it could kind of be a little bit more mellow.
Yeah.
And the
I'm
demons,
sure I've
I
mentioned
don't
it.
like the demons while I'm trying to think either.
Yeah. I've mentioned it before. I know I have, but like my go-to soundtrack is the Westworld TV
you have
show
mentioned that.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
They have like it's like piano versions of popular songs. So there's
Yeah,
no
that's super cool.
yeah.
Have you ever listened to the String Quartet? The same thing, only it's all strings, but they're always
yeah.
doing popular songs. Very cool. Plus, most of the good songs, you take the lyrics out, the song's actually better. That's my
Absolutely.
opinion. Yeah. Very cool. Well, we will link up all the things. CanJam, Lo-Fi, JQQ, Svelt Documentary, other things. I can't remember. We've talked about so much. And that's what we're into right now. If you are excited about something that's an X, where X is literally anything, and you want to tell us about it, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments. You can tweet at us as well at JSPartyFM. Nick is at Nick Nisi. I'm at Jerod Santo. And that's all I got, Nick. You got anything else?
That's it.
All right. On behalf of Nick Nisi, I'm Jerod Santo. This is JS Party, and we'll talk to you all next week.